we're dealing with a myriad of issues. I was just talking to Josh Green, the governor down in Hawaii, who has some ideas around some land use concerns he has around speculators.
Look, I would take...
Horrible. That's horrible that we have to do that.
I could never vote for Newsom. I just can't. I would just say that his leadership in California is good reason to brush him off for the loser that he really is.
What began as a relaxed exchange with Gavin Newsom, one of those moments he typically glides through with charm and a well-practiced smile, quickly shifted when Kasparian stepped in, armed with sharp wit, a figurative blender ready to overflow, and what seemed like a personal guide titled, How to Deflate a Governor's Ego. Instead of a quick comeback, it turned into a full-on lesson in public embarrassment. One moment he looked confidently in control, and the next he seemed as if he were mentally searching for a graceful exit. The funniest part was that Ana barely said anything at all. She simply steered him straight toward a playful roast he never expected, but definitely earned.
Your car's gonna get broken into, okay? You're gonna get robbed.
Yep.
Using taxpayer money, funneling it to nonprofits so they can literally buy crack pipes and hand them out at Skid Row. There's video evidence of that. Paying incredibly high taxes that go to what? So yeah, I'm sick of it. And honestly, just experiencing what I've seen on the ground in California has made me question a lot about left wing.
If you're still here, push that subscribe button. Newsom's actions are more beneficial to the channel than to California. Gavin started the day as it was a picture shoot. Hair immaculate, clothes crisp, smile adjusted to CNN nice. He probably winked at himself in the mirror. Then Ana stepped up with the nuclear level communication of someone who was absolutely fed up with California's poster boy, appearing as both a billionaire whisperer and a progressive rescuer.
In 2014, voters in California overwhelmingly supported a ballot measure to support building more reservoirs in the state in order to bulk up our water infrastructure because we live in a drought-prone state. That passed in 2014. Funding was attached to it. You want to know how many reservoirs have been built since 2014? Zero. This state is an utter joke because of the people who are governing it. Gavin Newsom right now is at the top.
To be fair, Gavin's been dancing on this political titrop for years. He's mastered that centrist charm, the kind that says, I care immensely about climate change right before issuing further oil permits over his avocado toast.
This is what I was surprised about. I did not expect Donald Trump to flip 10 counties in California from blue to red. But I guess I shouldn't have been surprised about that either. Because when you look at the conditions that people are living in a Democrat-controlled state, well, yeah, you can understand why people are turning their backs on the Democratic Party. You can understand why people are frustrated at the corruption, at the loss of $24 billion that was allocated to help the homeless, when homelessness only exploded during that time, and that money is now.
She made him into a living PSA about why you should never underestimate a journalist who's been collecting receipts since your campaign slogans were printed.
The President Newsom candidacy look like in a general election, not just pandering to the left?
Yeah, good question. He would sell out the American people to corporate interests, just like he did with PG&E, starting fires and destroying countless Californians' lives as a result of that. He bailed them out. He totally bailed them out. He has provided protection for them, even though they absolutely refused to update their century-year-old equipment, which everyone knew was going to lead to devastating wildfires.
She tore through his carefully crafted public image as if it were held together by nothing more than tape and overworked PR helpers. Yet she never raised her voice or lost her composure. It wasn't an outburst. It was a perfectly timed takedown delivered with calm precision, each point hitting harder than anything the internet could dream up. Gavin often talks a polished game about caring for everyday people, but Ana gently lifted the curtain to show the tricks, shortcuts, and hidden levers behind the act. And this moment wasn't just about him. Everyone watching could sense the shine fading from the whole progressive hero costume. It became a quiet reminder of every politician who smiles for the cameras while approving decisions that make people's lives harder when no one is watching.
Gavin Newsom, in every single interview I've seen him do, has passed the buck, even though he is the governor of the state. He is pathetic. He's a snake. He's like the slimiest Democratic politician, certainly on a local level. But what we have seen is mismanagement of epic proportions, and the mere existence, and it is real, the existence of climate change should not be utilized as a talking point in order to pass the buck, in order to deflect blame, in order to refuse to take any personal responsibility for how poorly this state has been governed for several years.
Ana lighted the match, and instantly the entire political forest recognized it was built up of dried tinder. The brilliance was her control. Cold surgical reasoning, no banging on the table, no screaming bouts. It appeared to be a presentation masquerading as a slap. Karma's real name today, Ana, and she came to talk about Gavin's hypocrisy. Newsom enjoys positioning himself as the climate champion, but he conveniently ignores things like drilling permits, the high-speed train in the ghost town, and how his enthusiasm for the environment fades when a tech lobbyist turns up.
Can I curse? I don't know if I can.
Please.
Okay.
You must. It's a necessity.
So, Democratic establishment candidates are full of shit. And I need people to understand that. And we need to get out of this like vicious pendulum swing cycle where we go from one terrible administration to another terrible administration. They just have different branding. But in the end, they do nothing for ordinary people. And that's what people are hungry for. I think that's part of what explains the popularity of Zoran Mamdani in this mayoral race in New York City.
While voters may overlook the contradictions, Ana did not. She had facts. She had receipts. She was the owner of the megaphone. One of the hardest things was that she didn't just drag his policies. She ruined his way of thinking. That belief that if you utter equity with enough conviction, no one will notice the equity never actually arrives. No clever tweet, no terrified press release from interns frantically trying to save Gavin, and no return, nothing, just stillness, the loud sort.
A native Angelino. I was born and raised in California. I love my state. I love the people in the state. But it is an absolute wasteland right now. Every freeway bridge is full of people living in tents. There's excrement on our sidewalks. It's unsafe. Crime has gone up. And when it comes to coronavirus, I mean, the fish rots from the head down. Let me just mention.
Gavin chose door number 3. Too bad the internet didn't. The takedown immediately became well known. Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, people like public roastings everywhere. Memes multiplied. Reaction videos went berserk because the complete narrative may force Gavin's team to go into cardiac collapse. Even cautious political analysts mentioned her with caution.
Oh, I'm sure he really does find it funny. He's not bothered by it at all. You just heard the bitter statements of a snake who unfortunately serves as the governor of California. Some like to refer to him as Gavin Newsom. I like to refer to him as a smarmy failure of a politician out of the state that I was born and raised in. Nonetheless, Gavin Newsom was fighting hard to be the guy who stepped in to replace Joe Biden if he dropped out of the race.
Meanwhile, Ana sat there like, oh, you thought nobody was paying attention? You imagined your luxury fundraisers, flip-flop promises, and masterfully staged diversity photo ops were undetected. She noticed, and she made sure millions did too. She didn't yell, didn't wave her arms. She struck with sarcasm as frigid as a Tesla battery and reasoning sharpened by irritation. She studied his political identity like a forensic doctor doing a live autopsy. She exposed his contradictions, such as his promises of tenant safeguards that he never completely carries out and his postponements of universal health care.
He's so cool and relatable in his genes. And but like between Cuomo and Newsom, these are actually two really good examples of people who represent the Democratic Party establishment who have not fully reckoned with their unpopularity during the COVID crisis and are now sort of trying to be, as powerful as they were before without, I don't know, maybe actually even being seriously introspective as opposed to whatever the hell that was.
You're absolutely right, okay, in your analysis. And let me just say, you know that I like you when I'm willing to sit through a podcast episode featuring Gavin Newsom just to prepare for this. Okay, because I can't stand him. I can't stand his raspy voice. And it's not for any superficial reason other than the fact that I live in California. I've had the displeasure of experiencing what his leadership actually looks like.
The harsh segment, which showed his political cowardice, followed. According to Ana, Gavin has all the ambition of a future president and none of the backbone. He enables surveys, media, and affluent funders determine his moral compass. Leadership isn't about timing your values, she hinted. You either stand for something or you don't. A serene speech that could make even a governor want to vanish inside his $1,000 suit. No outbursts, no theatrics. Reddit was flooded with posts like Ana just nuked Nuomi. And this is what happens when someone exposes your talking points. And from Gavin's office, there were crickets. Not even a passive-aggressive tweet, just the sound of silent panic.
That while Americans are encouraged to shelter in place, encouraged to practice social distancing, no eating indoors at restaurants, he was seen at the French Laundry meeting up with his lobbyist buddies. That is unacceptable. I have not seen competent leadership from Gavin Newsom, and I will state on this show, every single member of my family signed our names, provided our signatures to recruit.
However, this was more than just amusement. This was a reckoning, a spotlight on the rift inside the Democratic Party between the polished elites and the outspoken truth tellers who refused to play nice anymore. Gavin wasn't just dragged by Ana. She dragged a whole generation of politicians who run on a slogan of optimism but rule on the fumes of hedge funds. She wasn't just holding him accountable. She was holding everyone accountable. The public has had enough of smart branding. I'm tired of politicians practicing sympathy and utilizing hashtags when they talk, and Ana tapped straight into that frustration.
Now, some are noticing, look, he's not really doing the type of campaigning for Kamala Harris that he was doing for Joe Biden. What's going on here? Now, of course, we all know what's going on. Newsom was engaging in that campaigning not for Joe Biden's sake, but in order to increase his name recognition in case he found himself in a situation where he'd be tapped to replace Joe Biden after he drops out. Now, Newsom went from campaigning hard for Biden to barely campaigning at all on behalf of Kamala Harris, so much so that Democratic operatives are now questioning whether his role as a national surrogate for Harris is really something they can lean on. They're questioning if it's even a thing.
But after this, establishing trust might be a lost cause. What made it sting more? Ana's reliability. From the sidelines, she is not yelling. She is familiar with the world that Gavin portrays as. One thing becomes plain as the smoke clears. Gavin is going to live. Politicians always do. However, even his well-known hair gel cannot repair the devastation to his glossy, forward-thinking packaging.
This job has been so difficult because he's dealt with both the COVID situation and unemployment and wildfires and racial justice issues all in the same year. And he's sort of done the best that he can in trying to deal with all these. What specifically, Ana, from a policy perspective, would you like to have seen him done differently versus what he has actually done?
First of all, I get real aggressive about building housing immediately, right? Putting porta potties under freeway bridges for homeless people to use is not a solution to this problem. I would also find ways to ensure that businesses have the, economic relief necessary to remain stable throughout this process.
She ended up giving everyone a clear reminder of what real political responsibility looks like. It isn't loud, showy, or boosted by special interest money. It's sharp, straightforward, and completely unwilling to tolerate excuses. The next time Gavin steps up to a microphone with that familiar grin, he'll remember the moment Ana Kasparian didn't simply call him out. She tested the entire image he'd built, and the outcome was simple: guilty of putting on a performance instead of practicing genuine progress. No speeches needed, no defense offered, just an uncomfortable pause and a lasting mark on the resume of someone who thought style alone could outweigh substance.